So this is a true story. One time I was sitting in a Dunkin' Donuts having coffee, and it was raining, and I was people watching. True story. People watching. And across the street, a woman slipped and fell because the rain had gotten some metal on the ground wet and slipped and fell. She got up. The first thing she did was she fixed her hair. There was some hair out of place, and she fixed it. You know what that is, my friend?
What is that?
Evidence of a soul. That's evidence of a soul.
People wanting to look nice.
I'll explain why later, but that's evidence of a soul. Any response?
People wanting to look nice is evidence of a soul.
Because how do you know what looks nice? Aha. So that's what... Go ahead.
Culture?
No. Culture comes...
The opinions of others. I mean, I would expect a well-accomplished Catholic to come back with something a lot stronger than hair to use as ammunition for his argument.
Something better than hair.
Very, very easy.
Well,
we're just going to be very easy.
We're just getting started, my friend. Welcome to the dialogue, everybody. Glad that you're joining us. This is October 3rd in the year of our Lord 2023. I'm your friendly neighborhood Catholic adventurer. Go, Cal.
My name's Cal Kane. Come chat to me at Real Cal Kane on Twitter.
Absolutely.
Very nice to be with you all again.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining us. We're talking about soul today. Have you got soul? Have you got a soul? We're debating the existence of a soul, a Catholic and an atheist, squaring off and roughing it up. How you doing, Cal?
I'm doing great. I'm doing great today, man. I've had a really, really nice day so far. A weird floating object in the Scottish sky has appeared. I believe it's called the sun.
Oh, the sun. Let me tell you, we had a couple of days of Scottish weather here. I wanted to kill myself. It was like 5 days of rain.
Like for five days. Those are rookie numbers compared to Scotland. Yeah. Was the rain horizontal and did it tear the flesh from your bones? If it didn't do that, it was not Scottish rain.
No, only intermittently. Yeah, the Scottish rain there is crazy. There's an island over there somewhere that has no trees. And it gets very windy and very stormy. I can't imagine. It's like some little bitty island. I forget the name of it. Right. And it's a Scottish island. So it belongs to you guys. It's a little island, no trees. I think the Romans wiped out all the trees there. And I can't imagine
the Isle of Arran, possibly.
Might have been. And I can't imagine weather like Scottish weather with no trees to soften it up. I can't imagine that, but whatever. So you're looking good. The
effect of that wind would feel like sunburn. That would be terrible.
Yeah,
oh my God, no cover.
I can't imagine. I wonder if people live there. I don't recall now. But anyway, so we're talking about soul today, the existence of a soul. This is episode 2 of the dialogue leading up to our final and ultimate debate. A few episodes down the road from now, we're going to be debating euthanasia. Yesterday, we did a live Twitter Spaces. We were kind of debating morality. If you did not catch our little debate on morality, then you're committing a mortal sin by not following us on Twitter. You'll find me at For the Queen BVM. You'll find the Dialogue Podcasts feed, which you really ought to be following, at the Dialogue FM. The Dialogue FM. I thought that was a great. That was a really fun debate, Cal.
It was really fun. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I really enjoyed myself on that one. Yeah, I didn't expect it to be so fiery, but I'm happy it went that way.
Yeah. That got like old school you and me fiery, and. Yeah. I don't want to drop no dimes up in here, but I can remember past conversations and debates we've had that got really, really rough, really raw.
I believe it was me versus you and half of the Catholic population of America.
Yeah.
And I think we went back and forth for about 3 hours or something like that.
3 hours.
By the end of it, I think I did a very, very cliched, like European Parliament actually banged my fists on the table for like emphasis on a point or something. Yeah, it was good times. I wouldn't have done it any differently.
Yeah, that you characterized it well. That it was pretty much that. So the folks don't know this yet, or they're probably getting a hint of it. But you and I are very good friends, and
we are.
We go hard at it, and we still love each other. You're one of my closest, dearest friends, and I thank God for you. I really do. That's the truth. That's not ratings. That's not sounding good on the microphone. It's the truth. It's from my heart.
Thank you very much, but straight back at you. Not the God stuff, but the love part, the important part.
You're such a weirdo, Cal. I don't know why you don't believe in God, but I guess if you did, we wouldn't have a show. So
that's true.
Yeah. So once again, follow us on the Twitters /X at the Dialogue FM. I really hope you do, because we're going to be doing the Twitter Spaces stuff from that account going forward, and tweeting updates and stuff like this. So join the fun. You can also find me at For the Queen BVM. You'll find Cal at Real Cal Kane. Let's move on. So Cal, we're talking about soul. It's all about soul. I guess, Cal, why don't you start with the way we're going to do this, folks, is Cal's going to do his opener, start with his talking point, number 1, 2, and 3. I'm going to do my talking points, but we're not going to keep this, we will not be keeping this very rigid and very organized. We aim to be very organic and natural in how we debate this, but that's going to be the framework. Cal has prepared 3 points of argumentation. I've prepared 3, and we're going to go over them. And I think, Cal, it would be best for you to establish your foundation first. I think that would be better.
Okay, so first off, it's great to be back. Good to be back here again with you all. Thank you very much for joining us. Hope you're all having an absolutely wonderful day. Hope staying safe out there in these crazy, crazy times we find ourselves in. Love to you and your family. So allow me to just put my cards on the table. I don't believe in souls. A soul or souls. To the surprise of absolutely no one in the audience. And here are my reasons why. Here's my first point. My first point, and this is actually a general technique that I use for believing or not believing in things in general. There's absolutely no evidence for it. Some evidence. Some people have tried to bring evidence. There was a a chap called Duncan McDougall, who surprisingly is not Scottish.
It's such a Scottish name.
I promise you, I think he was from Massachusetts. This was back in the year 1907, I believe it was, and he weighed people and then weighed them just after dying. It was a very interesting study, and he wanted to see if he could weigh the human soul. And what he actually found was that between dying, being alive, and then being pronounced dead, people actually lost some weight. They lost about 21 grams, I think it was. So at the time, this would have been an amazing thing. But as with what always happens when you try to favor the supernatural, the superstitious, the illogical, the irrational, reason always comes through and wins. There's a natural element to it. There was no wishful thinking was necessary. So what happened was, what happens is when you die, we actually lose heat from our body because our body isn't, there's no electricity, there's no heartbeat, so on and so forth. So what happens is that we lose something called kinetic energy, which basically means that the energy being made by the atoms rubbing together to make the friction, to make the heat, leaves our body when we die. That's why that's why people appear cold when you touch them, and that explains that explains the loss. I must say though, I really, really commend this guy for even back in the 1900s actually wanting to run this experiment. I really, really love the idea of actually trying to instead of just doing a kind of God of the Gap, soul of the Gap style argument. Oh, that's mysterious. That's a soul. That's mysterious. God must have done it. He actually tried to bring in some of that stuff. What's it called? Evidence.
Listen,
that's my first. Yeah, this so, and it follows on from there. That's the end of my first point. Thank you.
Okay, so off topic, but this God of the Gaps thing, I need to crush you on in a later Twitter Spaces thing or something. I'm so sick of it. So the way we're doing this is we can say what we want when it's our segment. Okay, one thing I want to say is everything he said is stupid. No, I'm just kidding. I was just channeling my inner My Cousin Vinny. There was a moment like that in the movie.
You have to do much better than that.
There's 2 kinds of evidence. This is really my point number 3, but I really think it ought to be point number 1. Okay, there's physical evidence and there's logical evidence. Okay, oftentimes people are sent to jail without any physical evidence, right? In fact, when they're sentenced, right, they've been proven guilty, right, by the evidence. Let's say it's murder, there may be no murder weapon, right? I guess there could be no body. There just might be evidence that a body exists. Might be hair or blood or something. Sometimes, for instance, if you go up into the atmosphere, you can look to see if rain is coming, right? That's physical evidence. Then there's the unseen evidence, right? Maybe you feel it in your bones because you have you have arthritis or something. And there's unseen evidence. There's logical evidence. There's evidence that is real and tells on itself, but may not be physical, right? I would say the soul is a real thing, even if there's no physical evidence. You cannot have physical, measurable evidence for something that is immaterial. The soul is of a spiritual substance. So I guess I'll leave that to my first point. The whole thing about, I just think it's so silly. I think it's admirable that this guy, Duncan, what was it? I have to say the last name too. Duncan what?
Duncan McDougall.
Duncan McDougall. I think it's nice that Duncan McDougall wanted to prove these things and get to the bottom of it. Go ahead.
No. I just said that sounds like a caricature of a Scottish name. That doesn't sound like a real Scottish, and it wasn't. The guy wasn't actually Scottish. I mean, maybe he had Scottish ancestry or something. But sorry, I interrupted you, brother.
No, it's okay. But Duncan McDougall has to be Scottish somewhere. But anyway, I think it's great that he's trying to find the truth of it and trying to find evidence. But I just think I mean, my first thought, if someone were to come to me and say, because I had never heard of that experiment, if someone were to come to me and say, I wonder if a body weighs less when the soul leaves it, I would have called that ridiculous. Of course, a body's not going to weigh less, at least not because the soul leaves it. The soul is immaterial. It's of a spiritual substance. So I think that's ridiculous.
I love that. I love that he wanted to try and find some evidence, but that perfectly encapsulates religious thought. Oh,
because the
scientists trying to find actual evidence. Oh, Cal, they're sticklers for that.
The evidence has to make sense. I'm going to prove God exists by taking a photo of him. The evidence has to make sense. It doesn't make sense to take a photograph of a God who's immaterial, who created matter, who created the physical world. It doesn't, the evidence has to make sense. Here's evidence that Bigfoot exists. It's a big clump of hair in the forest. Well, that's not evidence because a big clump of hair doesn't fall off of a hairy body. So obviously this was placed here. We also haven't established that it's an animal hair or if it's human hair or if it's a synthetic material like from a costume. The evidence has to make sense.
Immaterial and non-existent seem to be exactly the same thing as far as I can see. I've always thought that. Oh, no, that doesn't exist. Bigfoot doesn't exist, but God exists. Where's the physical evidence? Oh, there's none. But he's immaterial. I mean, come on.
But there's logical evidence for God. Let me just tell you, that's what I think. Well, your thought is immaterial, but it exists. Your dreams are immaterial, but they exist. Just saying. So
I don't think so.
So that was my point number 3. I'll make that my point number 1 and throw to you. Again, you can handle it however you like. Respond to what I've said. Go to your point number 2. Up to you. You go.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've actually, you couldn't have set up my second point better. Either I'm really good or you're starting to become predictable.
No, second it's because statement. I know you need all the help you can get. So I did that on purpose.
Well, there you go. My second point. This is what I have written here on because I'm not reading off of notes. I just have little prompts just to keep me going in the right direction. Right. This is what I've written here. Fair. Second point I will be making is how I dislike how certain religious people actually don't think the soul can be proven scientifically because they don't consider it a scientific claim. I mean, good Lord, maybe I'm a prophet with predicting what my opponent is going to say. My second point, and he couldn't have said it any better. Those pesky scientific atheists looking for actual reason to believe things. Can't they just let the heart do all of the thinking? No, we cannot. No, we cannot. And you would not do the same. You would not do the same thing.
You can apply reason to logical evidence. Okay, so I mean, we've had this conversation way in the past that there's this idea. I know people are going to hammer me on this. You might too, and I think that would be fair, but I still disagree. Then here's this. It is said that you cannot prove the non-existence of a thing. I think that you can. For instance, and I know why it sounds stupid, and I will still let you hammer me on it, but hear me out with an open mind first, okay? I don't believe Bigfoot exists. I cannot prove, quote unquote, prove his non-existence, but I can prove logically that he likely doesn't exist, and therefore I arrive at the judgment that he does not exist. Do I know for sure? Like, as I know this is being held in my hand? No, but we have to arrive at a reasoned judgment at a point. Jurors do this. Jurors do this. They arrive at a reasonable judgment of guilt, right? The person may be innocent, but often the person probably is guilty. But let me move on. So let's prove the non-existence of Bigfoot. There's no photography of him. Claims of his existence, like footprints and stuff, have been debunked. There's no evidence of a Bigfoot diet. There's no evidence of Bigfoot mating. There's no evidence of Bigfoot habitation. So the extreme lack of evidence and the lack of likelihood. We've never seen a Bigfoot skeleton. We've never seen anything close to what resembles what would be a Bigfoot skeleton, right? Like in archaeological digs and stuff. So here's the conclusion. Does Bigfoot exist? Well, there's some reasoned evidence that we would expect to be there in accord with the claim. It's a big Yeti creature, lots of hair, big feet, yada, yada. Okay, so there's reasonable evidence we would expect reasonably in accord with the claim. That does not exist. And therefore, Bigfoot does not exist. Let's switch it to God. There's a reasonable set of evidence you would expect in accord with the God claim. You're not going to get physical evidence, but there is logical evidence. The existence of a soul is one of them. That's my response to you.
Well,
Press rewind if I haven't blown your mind.
Without getting too bogged down in details, I really, really agree, strongly agree with the first 50% of what my buddy said. My buddy, who happens to be my debate partner today, said, until he got squirrely right at the very end, like religious people tend to do. Again, without getting too bogged down in details, you can be 90% sure. There's such things as justified true belief. There's the lack of it, and so on and so forth. But what my handsome New York buddy just did was knocking each point out of the park. Bigfoot doesn't seem viable. There's very little physical evidence.
There's no physical evidence. Zero. Sorry, go.
Yeah. So he does it absolutely perfectly, absolutely brilliantly.
Thank you.
And then at the very, very last hurdle goes, yeah, but none of that stuff applies to God because that's different. That's a completely different set of claims. That's not a scientific claim. That's a metaphysical claim. It's about faith. It's not about evidence. It's not about reason. Blah blah blah. Religious people, not just religious people, anyone who believes in the supernatural does this. Whether it's star signs, whether it's acupuncture, whether it's crystal healing, whether it's seances, they all do the same thing. Everyone has a set of things. Everyone that believes in the supernatural has the ability to reason, and they just pull the plug on that when it comes to their own specific supernatural claim, but then they stand up and they laugh at all the other ones. Oh, Bigfoot, that's so completely unbelievable.
So
but
stupid.
A giant creator deity that's out there, that's a simpler claim? Come on.
I think we're getting into the God claim defense. My fault, but now you're taking the bait that I unintentionally dropped. Let's keep it on target, on topic. That's my fault, Cal. I'm sorry. I'm just backing you up, getting you back on target. I apologize.
No, it's okay. But let me just jump from that. And then then they start to talk about the immaterial soul. They start to say how this thing rises off our body, and it somehow magically contains all the things that we need brains to do. So the soul was not made of anything, but it stores information. It stores our personality. It stores our love of music, and so it's immaterial, but it stores material things. I mean, what on earth is actually being claimed here? It's so esoteric. And it's so unscientific, and it's so badly defined that a soul could theoretically be everything and nothing. It is ubiquitous and also completely absent.
Well, the soul is not a wild card. I agree. Some people have some crazy ideas of what the soul is and stuff like that. I just want to make one quick point. You keep saying scientific. Science studies the physical order. That's we don't have to go back and forth on that. You have your thoughts, I have mine, but you can say whatever you need to, but I'm saying, I don't know if we have to. Science studies the physical order. Okay. The metaphysical is a different, or the spiritual, it's a different order. And just to offer, because what you say is fair, so the soul can do all the things that we need a brain for. And I want to respond to that because that's a fair question or comment. So the way it works is the body gives expression to the soul. Okay, a person, this is the claim. This is the claim. This is what we're, what we talk about as Catholics, is the body gives expression to the soul. The person is a composite of soul and body, but the body gives expression to the soul. And the soul is limited by the body. So, where does a mind come from? It doesn't actually come from a brain. The intellect is a spiritual faculty. And the brain is what gives the intellect expression in the physical realm. That's not an argument. It's only a claim. Just for clarity, I think you might find that interesting. You might not have heard that before. I think the listeners would find that interesting. May I go into one of my evidence talking points? Or was there something you wanted to say first? Okay, so
we could play that game of responding to each other's stuff all day. Go on to your second point.
We could do. I mean, we did a 3-hour debate once, so yeah. One of the points of argument or points of evidence, and again, I'm not talking about physical evidence. Every time I use that word, there's logical evidence too. Is the evidence of a soul? There's evidence of a soul from near-death experiences. I think, Cal, we could probably do a 3-hour show on that, given our, what we discussed during pre-production.
You reignited my interest in that subject. I'd forgotten all about it. So thank you.
Well, and you're welcome. And I was saying to you yesterday, I did not believe in out-of-body experiences until I saw some of these reports. Okay. I'm going to set this foundation, and Cal and I strongly disagree on this, but this is what the foundation is. These are scientific peer-reviewed studies. Cal says that's not good enough for me. Okay, fine, but we can't get into the weeds there. It's suffice to say, and Cal can speak to this on his own, I'm just saying, these are scientific peer-reviewed studies. These are not blogs, okay? And one of the, I guess, phenomena of out-of-body experiences that I and Cal found very fascinating is that there were blind people, many who were blind since birth and had never seen before, who reported having sight during an out-of-body experience. I believe it was 14 out of 30. That's quite a number. 14 people who were blind since birth reported being able to see. Well, if they didn't know what seeing is like, how did they know that they could see? Which is a fair question. They would say things like the appearance of this object on this object was similar in appearance to that object over there, to the right or to the left. They would describe, as best as they could describe colors, they would describe the color of this thing is the same as the color of that woman's hair, yellow/blonde. So they were reporting things like that. I think that's very fascinating. Even if we say, well, they probably weren't seeing, they were probably experiencing something that they interpreted as sight, fine. We're still reporting that they experienced something after they died. They felt something. They thought something. They perceived something after clinical physical death. That is evidence of a soul. That's what was originally my point number one. Go, Cal.
Well, to start what I'm about to say,
let me just get the laugh track ready. Hang on.
Yeah, cool. So let me come at this first from an interesting perspective, a perspective that people probably wouldn't see coming.
Okay.
I don't have any type of a problem with anything lifting off the body at death and taking some of our personality with us and looking down on us and being able to see your own body. I've had 2 out-of-body experiences myself.
You're kidding me. You're kidding me.
Yeah. Yes, I have. Yeah, get slightly out of body experiences, but well, the thing with the out of body experience is that it doesn't have to be near death. A lot of it occurs under anesthesia. Some of it can be under some of it can be under extreme stressful situations where your mind kind of fragments to try and solve the problem going on when your mind actually can't handle the barrage of information coming to you. And the other one is hallucinogenic drugs, psilocybin, magic mushrooms, LSD. People have reported. Guess which one I had the outer body experience on. So I can I can speak to it. I find it very interesting, and given how many things in our body are very fundamental and very important to us, but we don't actually really know why they do what they do. There isn't a scientific consensus on why we dream. Even to this day,
Right.
Dreams have been reported for a long time, but we don't actually really know why we dream. It's not completely certain. I don't come to this as someone who rejects the spiritual or respects the or disrespects or rejects, the spiritual or the creepy or the weird or the stuff that doesn't conform to what we understand.
You just don't think it's an
about
actual
science.
spiritual agent. Is that am I understanding you? So you don't discount the quote unquote spiritual, you just discount spiritual agency, that is the actual spirit / soul.
I don't think.
I'm asking. I'm not imposing that. I'm asking.
Yeah, no. I don't think that any of the people that claim to have had an outer body experience are lying. And here's the kind of second kind of like kind of standard skeptic response. If people were able to, if I was able to have an outer body experience right now, I could do it on call. That would be something, because I'm just sitting here drinking some water, filming a podcast. But when you have people that have been in a car crash, smashed around, in lots of pain, they're terrified, and then they're pumped full of morphine and they're pumped full of everything else to try and keep them alive, and then they report that to me only suggests that there's a lot about the human mind and the human brain that we don't know. And when you damage it and I mean, almost destroy it, it's a very, very significant thing that happens. And near-death experience is not stubbing your toe. These are insanely stressful situations. So to me, it's not overly surprising that the body would do some very strange thing. Remember my first point. There's nothing in the natural order for me that completely rules out the fact that our consciousness does actually lift off the body at death. And there are ways that we could test that as well. They just haven't been done yet, to my knowledge. So yeah.
Okay. So let me take a break from the reaction real quick to remind you to please follow us on X at The Dialogue FM. We're also on Facebook at The Dialogue FM. We're also on Instagram at The Dialogue FM. But, excuse me, this is really a conversational communication kind of a show. This is a show about discussion, and we want to have discussion with you. And let's be honest, those discussions probably won't happen on Facebook. I always make this joke, Facebook, where free speech never lived. So we are on there. We will be posting updates and stuff on there, but we are most active on X at The Dialogue FM. On every social network, or at least the big three, and most especially here on X. Let us know what you like and what you don't like. Drop questions. Participate when we go live with Twitter Spaces or X Spaces. Come and hang out with us. We would love that.
Can I interject with something just very quickly?
Absolutely, man.
A lot of atheists, people that have atheist in their name, skeptic in their name, tend to be very, very bullish, very, very rude, very disrespectful, and not really up for peaceful debate and actually kind of leaving the beliefs aside at the end of it and actually just being friends with the person and not having to start using horrible language and just really make the conversation unnatural. So if anyone has any reservations in talking to me, because unfortunately, when you call yourself an atheist, you get associated with idiots that I'm not even going to give any airtime. I completely understand that, but hopefully if you've heard the first episode and you've heard the second episode, know that unless you really, really come at me with an attitude and you want to have a bit of a barbed back and forth, which I'm also fine with, I'm not going to make you feel uncomfortable. You guys. The fact that anyone's here wanting to listen to me talk about these things is awesome. Yeah. So thank you.
Cal's a very nice guy. If you come at him tough, he'll come at you tough. But if you're already coming at him that way, then you can handle him coming at you that way.
Exactly.
That's not his go-to. Okay, that's enough. So what I think we should do from here, Cal, we each have 1 point left, and I think we should square off on those. Maybe this is what we should call our hardball segment. Okay, the hardball segment is where we basically just go mano a mano. I punch him, he punches me. We're just arguing back and forth. It's not a riot. It's not all hell has broken loose. It's not a scene from a Braveheart movie. But it goes a little quick and it goes a little heavy, and we don't do points to death. We kind of move on. And again, Cal, no pressure. We move on organically as we feel, let's get to the next thing, or let's get to the next thing, or we just talk back and forth as we normally do. Okay?
Okay.
So let me throw this at you. This was my third point. Evidence of a soul, and I think we'll enjoy talking about this too. And if there's anything else you want to introduce, it's a free-for-all, okay? But here's what I want to throw in there. Evidence of a soul from transcendental desires. And I was thinking about it this way. Dogs love unconditionally. You can abuse a dog, not that I do, obviously, but you could abuse a dog, and that dog is going to love you anyway. It might have some natural reactions. It might react, a little bit of a flinch to a person putting its hand out, to pet him or something. It might flinch at first. But for the most part, a lot of times people will say dogs live in the moment. They don't, they don't think about, the past, not abuse, but maybe mistreatment or whatever. And I would say, yes, you know why that is? Because dogs have no perception of the imperfect. People know when something is imperfect. People know when something is not the full truth. People know that there is a beauty that's objective. There's a beauty that's subjective. I like tall, I like short, I like blondes, I like brunettes, I like the color blue, I like the color gray, whatever. But there's also an objective beauty. And people know, and even if you want to call it whether it's objective or subjective, people have a desire for the beautiful. They have a desire to be moved by the beautiful. They have a desire for good and for justice that they can't explain. They have a desire for the whole truth, and so on. And we have an innate understanding that there is a wholeness that we desire, and we have an understanding, therefore, when it's lacking, when something isn't perfect, the whole truth, when something isn't beautiful. We can only perceive that when we have an innate understanding of what beauty is, what truth is, what goodness is, what justice is. Transcendental desires is evidence of a soul. It's evidence of an animating agent separate from the brain, because the brain needs information. The brain is not the intuitive agent. Anyway, go.
Maybe someone in the audience can help me out here, but I could have sworn that I just heard 5 minutes of very, very well-spoken, very, mostly meaningful, factual stuff that had absolutely zero to do with the soul. Literally zero. Maybe I'm going completely insane, but
you are going completely insane.
I don't think I am. So our ability to love beautiful things isn't because it's beneficial for us and we evolved that way and we can't explain that by our visual cortex and our smell and our taste and our touch.
Beauty is not beneficial to us. We don't need beauty.
Beauty is so beneficial for us, and
there is evidence of the soul. Thank you very much.
Again, there you go. There's a square hole. Oh, it's a round hole. It's amazing. This is what happens when you ill-define something. It's like when you get those Ghostbuster programs, not the actual Ghostbusters, but like with paranormal investigators.
Oh yeah.
When they ill-define a ghost to a point where anything can be it, so a squeaky floorboard goes off and they all absolutely just go schizoid and run away, or they get out some kind of a
right,
and they detect it like that.
Communicate. The ghost is trying to communicate. You hear
exactly.
That buzz? That's the ghost communicating.
If you ill-define something to the point that my debate opponent has done with a soul, it can be literally anything. And then it just goes on. It's the you're gonna love this. It's a soul of the god. It's a soul of the gaps argument again. There he goes. Soul of the gaps. Next, Cal, we're going to 2,000 years ago. We probably didn't understand how memory worked. Then we figured it out.
But it's important to point out that this has been the claim, okay? These things of transcendental desires have been the claim since Genesis. Okay? This is not something that we dug out. This is something that we have always asserted, and this is something that the skeptics slash atheists slash non-believers cannot explain. If atheists or skeptics want to say that's not the soul, fine. But what do you have that better fits the data? The data that we do have, like these transcendental desires, the ability to conceptualize something that you can't even understand. We can't wrap our heads around eternity, but we can conceptualize it, I guess you could say. That's not a great word. But you guys don't have anything that better fits the data. You just say, well, that's just how the brain works.
Give me the microphone for a minute and I'll blow your mind.
Go.
You're honestly telling me that you can't see an evolutionary benefit of appreciating beautiful things?
I can't. I'd like you to make that argument because I don't see it.
How do you feel when you see something beautiful? How does a mother feel when she sees her newborn little bundle of joy, and the opposite? How do you feel when you see your wife walking down the aisle for the first time? How do you feel? Do you feel wonder when you look into a telescope and you see and you see all the wonder, the vast size of the universe? Does that not inspire us? Does that not make us write beautiful books that are then read by other people that then go on to inspire other people?
None of that is.
You can call it transcendental. You can call it whatever you want. These things are important. These things are very, very important to us.
None of them.
A life without beauty has terrible effects on a human mind, and that's not controversial to say.
Well, none of them go to our survivability. None of them. We can survive. Look, people in solitary confinement live a life without beauty for very long periods of time, and it doesn't kill them. We don't need beauty to survive, right? So we must need or benefit from beauty in some other way that has nothing to do with the physical order.
Not everything that we do is all about survival.
Correct. Some of it is about expression of the nature of our being. And you made the argument. You made the argument for that. I don't mean this in a adversarial way, but I see something beautiful. I am inspired by it. It does provoke wonder, right, or wonderment. And then the question is, what am I wondering about? And why? And this is partly my point. When I remember when I was very young, looking at the night sky, and I remember thinking, boy, it looks like there's a dome over us. Look, there's a great big dome. And look at the stars and the moon. And it inspired wonderment. What was I wondering about? Nothing that benefited me in any way other than it provoked wonderment. Right? So it's the eternal connection inherent in the soul. We are connected to the eternal because we think about things that in and of themselves don't necessarily benefit us, but they're real and they're true, and we explore them for no other reason than to delight in them. Okay? And animals do not do that. They have no reason or purpose to do that, and neither do plants and trees, number one. Number two, I see this beautiful thing. It inspires me to create another beautiful thing. This was inspired by this rose that I saw, these plants that I saw, the colors were amazing. Or this thing that I saw in the natural order inspired this poem, this song that I wrote, whatever. And so what happens is that beauty hasn't contributed to my survivability. It's contributed to the expression of my being and nature as a human being created in God's image. God created beauty. We are inspired by beauty. We in turn create beauty, or reproduce, I guess, beauty.
When I have a particular soft spot for all types of religious memorabilia. Memorabilia being the first word that came to mind. I don't mean that to demean anything. I love churches. I love mosques. I love synagogues. I love holy scriptures. I love scrolls. I love the music. I love everything. I love everything about it. It strikes a chord with me. Are you really actually trying to say that Christians that gazed upon Gothic architecture were not in some way more likely to join the cause, being in the presence of these monolithic structures?
No,
are you
I
really?
don't think so.
Oh wow,
I don't think so.
That's incredible to me.
Well, in fairness, maybe. Let me put it to you this way. So these Gothic cathedrals and stuff were not meant to, they weren't meant to attract converts. What they were meant to elevate the senses to heaven. Okay? The churches are tall, and the windows, illogically, are very high up in those old churches. Well, why would you put windows way up there? Because what do you have to do? You have to look up at them, right? They draw the senses upward. They draw the mind and heart upward. So all these things are not to swindle someone into saying, wouldn't you like to join this club? It's really to inspire. It is to inspire people, and what people do with that inspiration, whether they're already believers or not, that's up to them. That's between them and God, whether they believe in him or not. But that really wasn't the purpose. But it does go to my point that we are inspired to act in ways that, again, do not go to our survivability. But still these things inspire us to act. Truth inspires us to act. Beauty, goodness, justice, these things inspire us to act. And these are transcendental desires. You're saying that's just, the human brain or the human mind. And I'm saying it can't be, because the human mind.
You say that like you say just. There's a lot of loaded language when I speak to religious people where they go, you're saying it's just the brain. So let me put this in a different way. It's just the most complex, incredible thing that we happen to be control of. We could have been born an ant. We could have not been born at all. We could have been killed by the plague. But we're here having an intellectual conversation with the most incredible thing that we've seen in the universe so far. And you say, yeah, but that's just a brain. But just a brain?
Cal, you're saying it's the most, and I agree with you, it is the most incredible thing in the universe, and it's entirely unrepeatable. You don't think that means something, that human beings were set apart, and that we were set apart by a means of something, the ensoulment of the human creature? You don't think that means anything?
I don't know if I want to go on to the trial and error process of the last of when the universe began, because a lot of human beings didn't make it through childbirth. A lot of them died from their teeth. Mm-hmm.
That's true.
So much of it was wasted. I think more people have died than have ever lived. So I don't really know if we want to go into that. That seems like getting a little bit. But if something wanted to set us apart and it had the ability to do so, it could not. I repeat, could not have done a worse job.
Cal, you're crazy. Listen, you pick any mammal, there's 100 other species like them. You pick any insect, there's 1,000 other species like them. Trees, plants, same thing. There is nothing in creation that is like human beings. Not even the highest primates. Since
when? Name a date.
Since forever. The highest primates, right? The smartest apes, okay, do not write poetry. They do not have a language. They are not studying humans, okay? We study them. There is nothing in creation that is like the human being. Nothing. And that should tell you something. That's all I'll say. We used to be them was the last thing you said. Go. You're about to step on a landmine. I'm telling you now, you're about to step on a landmine, but go right ahead.
Awesome. Fantastic. I can take it.
I know you can. You're a tough one.
I guess if you don't zoom out at all, you can probably say something so ridiculous. Oh, we write sonnets. We do science. We study ourselves. Other animals didn't do that. And okay, cool. Go back 250,000 years. What were we doing? Basically nothing, because we weren't the same species.
Well,
the apes don't do this. The apes don't. The monkeys, the chimpanzees, the single-celled organisms, the inanimate matter, the insects, or the bugs, and all that. That was us.
No, it wasn't.
Not that long ago.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
Yes, it.
No, it wasn't.
Oh, yes, it was. That's where we came from. We all came from single-celled organisms. And then we rose up, and then we just happened to come in right at the very end. And then Christians go, look at how amazing we've been for about 5 seconds in evolutionary terms, when we weren't hacking each other to bits, when we weren't living in trees.
If you're saying, I'm just simplifying it here, and I apologize if it's an oversimplification. I'll let you tell me that. You're saying basically, so we used to be that ape. And what I'm saying is the apes are still here. And they have never become humans, number one. Number two, there is a point in our history, the history of our, let's say, species, right? Homo sapien, Neanderthals, whatever. There is a point where we went from completely stupid like animals to creating musical instruments out of nowhere. This, I'll find the study and I'll send it to you. And this is not religion. This is secular science. There's a point at which we started to have a language. We started writing. We started making sophisticated tools. We went from using sticks to gather food to making woodwind instruments. Do you know the level of intellectualism and intelligence required to make a woodwind instrument? And how did we go from being stupid on Monday to being geniuses by Wednesday? I'm sorry. That's the ensoulment of the human creature. That's when humans ceased to be merely animals of the physical order and became human persons made in the image and likeness of God. And I'm sorry, nothing you offer can explain suddenly having language, suddenly making instruments. Nothing can explain that but my claim, the presence of a human soul.
I wish you were as correct as you were enthusiastic.
Ooh, Cal, well said. Oh, my goodness, I'm tweeting that. The Dialogue FM on Twitter, the Dialogue FM.
This has been Hardball.
This has been Hardball. Cal, I think we've done this to death. I don't think, and I literally don't think we can do this any more exhaustively. At least you and I couldn't. Right?
Exhaustively is the right word. I'm exhausted. I need to go lie down and have a cigarette.
Yeah, me too. I need to take a little break. So, final reminder, the Dialogue FM on X/Twitter. Please give us a follow because the more followers we have and the more engagement we have, the more the algorithm sees our account as being valid and valuable to others, and the more it distributes our stuff. Also, consider checking out Fiat Media and Churchcaster FM. You'll find that at fiat.media and churchcaster.fm. If you would like an amazing podcast produced for your parish, for your lay apostolate, or you need some podcasting assistance, fiat.media or churchcaster.fm. Amazing podcasts that you just can't get anywhere else in town. I know, I've looked. I went to Kmart, I went to Walmart, I went to Podcast Mart, I went to all the marts, and I can't find anything that can match the level of excellence of execution that you'll find from Fiat Media. Fiat Media. So be it, people. So be it. Okay. Any closing thoughts, Cal?
Real Cal Kane on Twitter /X. Come get to know me. I don't bite, I promise. I'm a nice guy.
He really is. I am at For the Queen BVM. The BVM stands for Blessed Virgin Mary. Let's roll on out of here. This has been episode 2 of The Dialogue. Follow me at For the Queen BVM.
Thank you again. I've been Cal Kane. Find me at Real Cal Kane on X/Twitter. And take care of yourselves. And until the next time, see you later.
TheDialogue.fm. Check out the website. Bye-bye.